Okay, we're recording. Assalamu alaikum, Marift Jamal. I'm very delighted to have you here. Thanks for taking up on my offer and doing this interview with me.
Walaikum assalam, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for you as well for inviting me. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Well, since our audience is more like focused on IELTS, I'm guessing it would be also in our audience's best interest if we kind of like link IELTS to SAT and how it's not, possible to study, abroad solely. I guess I unmuted myself. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
we
yeah.
can get
No.
started right now.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Well, yeah, I was just saying, we could also talk a little about IELTS and how it's not like completely possible to study abroad on a scholarship just by having an IELTS, band, 9 or 8, right? So, okay, because you have a little bit of background on IELTS as well.
Yes. Actually, I don't have a little bit of a background because I have spent my like 1.5 or like 2 years on IELTS. That's the thing. Okay, that's amazing. IELTS is pretty much is just the proof that you know English. It's just like the proof of your English proficiency. However, SAT is mostly about not necessarily your intelligence, but it like tells the universities that you are capable of studying, for example, in colleges. You are capable of getting the higher education. That's the thing. However, IELTS is just the proof of your English skills. That's all. So yeah, that's the main difference. That's
Yeah.
the biggest difference.
Okay. Yeah. Now that we've cleared that out, it wasn't actually it wasn't so much a question as more like an instruction on how this whole thing is going to be, is going to go. But anyways, now just to get things started, I wanted to know a little bit about yourself. Even though I know you, right? Even though like you actually once taught me, right? Like you were a one-time teacher of mine back in CIC, and now that it's actually crazy, like how I get to do this voice chat with you. That's such an honor, actually.
So yeah.
Okay, now
Mhm. Yeah,
can you tell our audience who you are, like briefly?
Okay, who am I? First of all, right now I'm a full stack web developer. Plus, I'm an SAT tutor, and lots of people do not believe like I'm a full stack web developer. That's also like part of my identity, I would say. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I was also like once the IELTS instructor, but right now I mostly focus on the SAT. So yeah, that's the thing. That's pretty much about me. I got into some universities and some with full ride scholarships. Right now, currently, I'm in Uzbekistan. I am tutoring students, plus I am preparing them, like I am helping them with their admission process. That's pretty much it.
Okay, yeah, that does it. Well, speaking of universities, you said that you got several full scholarships, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To some universities, and some people like were wondering like why uh, you just you didn't like study there and just decided to stay here in Uzbekistan.
So yeah, it has its own reasons. First of all, yes, I got full rate scholarships, and some people even like did not believe in this. So yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to go into details. Maybe I will, but not right now. So yeah, the main reason was that I am already in my career. Like I've already started, like my professional career. But of course, this is not my entire. This is not the thing that I want to do with my entire life. But actually, like I have just started. This is the thing without any bachelor's degree. So yeah, this was the thing. Like I'm already in my career, and for me to, for example, spend my 4 years, I need some like professional background. And this is not only about like numbers. This is not only about, for example, university rankings. Yes, it has to do, but not to the great extent, you know. So yeah, I also want research opportunities. I also want networking with the people in the university in professional backgrounds, you know. That's the main reason. And the second reason is that I see my future here in Uzbekistan for another year. That's the thing. Like, I have lots of plans that I put my mind to. This was the second biggest reason. Plus, third reason is that my parents are happy if I like study abroad, but you know, like they are even happier when I stay in Uzbekistan. That was the thing. That was these were the three reasons that made me to stay in Uzbekistan. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, got it. Got the big picture. Now, okay, we're gonna move on to like more questions about universities.
Okay.
First off, we'll talk a little about SAT and like what SAT has to do with college applications and everything, and what IELTS doesn't have that SAT has, right? So that's the whole
Mhm.
picture of our talk.
Mhm. So yeah, first
Now,
of all,
now,
okay. Yeah, please
so
continue.
if you want to like keep going, however, like you can, because my questions may not be in the perfect order. If you have anything to say about like SAT, first of all, right, that would be great.
No, it's better. It's better to make it like a Q&A section. So yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. Well, since we didn't really receive that many that many questions, by the way, I was kind of a little, uncomfortable with that fact. But then I went onto the sections of your comment sections of your channel, and there were like a lot of questions, so I just picked them up.
Okay.
Now, okay, let me just give you the first question then. Okay, so I guess everybody knows what SAT is, and I also talked about that in my channel, but we're not going to talk about that right now, and I'm pretty sure you're already tired of like mentioning what SAT is, but instead I will ask you a bit more specific question, which is that like do you believe in the idea of setting aside some amount of money and for example people ask you is it possible like to study like to get some kind of score. Let's just say is it possible to score 1500 if I study 6 months right nonstop or something. So can you talk a little about that, because I'm skeptical about setting some certain fixed like let's just say period, right? That
Yeah.
is kind of fuzzy in my head. So can you just shed some light on that?
Sure, sure, I will. Actually, getting that so-called 1500 is possible. Why? Because first, like, only if you are directed at a proper direction. Like, and lots of people do some self-studying, and lots of people go continue with other tutors, right? That's also like perfectly fine. Both ways are correct. But what I want to say is like getting that 15 plus, like 1500 plus, is possible. However, like as I mentioned before, like if you are in the proper way. So yeah, what is that proper way? I think if we just think of these 1600 or like 1500 score, like on a whole, you know, on the whole, it gets really confusing. It gets really like hard. However, if we break them up, for example, 800 from math, 800 from English, like if we say like if you only like take the math part specifically, for example, it is possible to get that 750, like 750, right? This is possible. This is super possible for most students because they have the background in math section. However, when we talk about the SAT English part, like the most promising part, I would say, is writing section. Like it's possible to get 40 plus correct answers on the SAT section. If you have proper instructions, if you have like proper dedication, proper like amount of dedication and like efforts you put, for example, right? This is also possible. However, if we talk about the reading part, it largely depends on you. Like whatever course you take or whomever you prepare with, this depends on you. And I would say like comprehension or like reading in general, they are all like they're all the things that you put your time, that you invest your energy and effort, and then you are going to make progress in this. However, like preparing for SAT writing for a month or two is gonna be sufficient for getting that 40 plus correct answers, and this means like 370 or like even like more than this. In terms of SAT reading, however, you have to like prepare a lot, and this takes time a bit. So yeah, that's it. If
Okay.
you bring them up, yeah.
All right. Why do you think, reading is so difficult? Like, why do you think it's impossible to get that perfect score? Because I know that a lot of people, no, of course, not a lot of people, like only like 97, 99th percentile are able to like get like 40 out of 40 in writing. But why do you think it's kind of difficult to do the same thing in reading?
Uh-huh. I think people go a lot with the strategies, but do not focus on the comprehension first. I think that's really important to focus more on the comprehension. Yeah, lots of people, for example, read some books and like practice their reading skills a lot. They might do even like speed reading things. However, they're not going to improve this. Why? Because even like my students say that I'm reading this specific book, I'm reading this, I'm reading that, but I say yes, okay, fine. However, for SAT reading specifically, this is not for IELTS reading for SAT reading specifically, you have to be able to understand like English text in terms of lots of things. It can be even like about politics. It can be even like about science. It can be even like about like psychology or like these things. Like you don't have to be narrow-minded when it comes to understanding the SAT reading passages. That's the thing. It's not all about the strategies. And the mistake that most people go with, like most people do, is only like sticking to the strategies that books teach them or the tutors teach them. That's the like biggest mistake that they do. However, I would say, for example, if you put yourself 3 months to prepare for the SAT, you have to be spending that 2 months for like not 2 months, like 1.5 months to only like focus on your comprehension skills, and then going with the strategies, like learning some strategies and then adopting them. That's the thing. I think that's the mistake that most students do when they prepare for the SAT reading.
Okay, yeah, I got it. You see, even I guess native English speakers find it difficult to understand the passages in SAT reading, right? So if we put it
Yes,
into
that's the thing.
perspective,
That's
right?
uh-huh. Yeah, huh?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
actually puts the whole thing into perspective. Like people like us and non-native speakers, getting a perfect score for reading. But you know, because IELTS is like a second, is aimed at those whose second language is English. It's easy to get a band 9 in reading, but this is not the same thing for writing, for SAT reading, right? That's why I'm wondering, like, if if is it like if it's possible to get that perfect score if I let's just say hypothetically if I got a band 9 for reading for IELTS reading like 10 times in a row, like do you think that's possible? You said that we need to improve our comprehension. First, of course, that means that my comprehension is already there. But then I will, of course, study, some SAT courses. And then, do you think will I be able to get, that score?
Uh-huh. As far as the perfect score is concerned, I think there another thing comes into the play, and this another thing is not comprehension only. Yes, comprehension is the main thing here. However, the second thing that comes into play is the time management. time management skills. You need to have that time management skills. Okay, I'm going to, since I opened the topic of time management, I'm going to give my specific tips in terms of like time management, and it's going to be like exclusive thing, even. Okay, fine, that's the thing. Okay, let me say. I think lots of people think like compare SAT reading with the IELTS reading, with that of an IELTS reading, and they say like, okay, we have 60 minutes in IELTS and we have 65 minutes in reading. However, we have three passages there with like normal difficulty level. However, we have like five passages there, and then we have the high difficulty level. And that's true, that's like really normal, but you have to be really effective when it comes to the SAT reading, when it comes to dealing with the SAT reading. And how you are going to do this, do not think of 60 minutes, 65 minutes, do not think of this. I always like tell my students, always divide the problem you have, like always break it up. I always like repetitively say this. Okay? um like if you consider it 13 minutes, and if you like break it up like during the test, you are going to find like you are going to find the strategy, you know. For example, let me just clarify what I'm saying. Okay, you have 13 minutes for each passage, right? Okay, and then this 13 minutes I would spend it this way. For example, 2 minutes, the first 2 minutes, I would just analyze the questions first, like reading the blurb and then analyzing the questions. And then with another 11 minutes, I would do what? I would do, for example, reading the passage plus answering to the question, reading the passage, answering to the question. And this, like, I think, like relieves lots of stress, relieves lots of pressure from you. Like breaking up those like time limits, I think. That's the main thing. That's the key point here. Do not think of this like 65 minutes or like 13 minutes. Always break that up. Even like with the seconds you have to work with, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I also found it quite useful because I'm also probably going to study SAT myself, and in fact, I dabbled with SAT at some point in the past, right? Like when I was like studying at CIC, and but for some reason I had to stop it, to focus more on IELTS and on my career. Yeah, that's the thing. I guess I'm also going to be studying SAT, and these are quite great tips that you're sharing with us. All right. Now, some people also ask you like how long it took you to get 40 in SAT.
That's a challenging question because like this is not my first score. When I first took the SAT, I had only 2 months. I thought that this exam is going to be super easy, but notice one thing. Like take note of one thing here. When I first took the SAT mock exam, my score was 1,000. Like without any insight, without any idea of what the SAT is. Like without anything, without any knowledge. I just took the mock exam. It was like the official mock exam, like with lots of students. I didn't like self-diagnose myself. So yeah, it was a mock exam, and I got thousands on this. However, after this, I again like took a self-diagnostic test, and then I set a solid study plan to myself. And after this, I prepared for another 2 months. I was already registered there. So yeah, and then after 2 months, my score increased by 420 points, and I got 1420 on my first trial, first SAT.
Okay, so you had
Uh-huh.
already had your IELTS 8, right?
Yeah,
At that point,
yeah,
right?
yeah. At that point, I had 7 in IELTS.
So what's your 7, right?
Yeah, it was 7. Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if we have like perfect math skills, like even if it's not perfect, right? Like if it's up to standard, right? Up to the
Mhm.
standard of Uzbek, high level of education, and
Uh-huh.
if we already have a band 7 in IELTS, it's possible if studied like intensively to get 1420 in 2 months,
Mhm.
right?
Yes,
In
actually,
theory,
yes,
right?
you can. Yes, you can, but like I put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, if I am, for example, if I want to do something, I'm extremely dedicated and I become so disciplined, That was like my asset. And plus, I was really observant when I was like, like researched lots of websites, and this was like a self study. Yeah, this was self study,
Oh,
and this is
you
yes,
studied
this
on
is
your
also
own, right?
yeah, I study on my own. That's the
Oh, okay. That makes, like that's a good news for our, listeners, right? And
ah really? You
this
didn't
this
know
is,
this? Okay.
yeah, sort of like a, you know, motivation to us as well. Like, okay, now that you
Yes.
made
Uh-huh.
us interested in that, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you study that hard? Or like, I don't think that, there is any way like you can study hard and then achieve a good score. But like,
Uh-huh.
what tips can you share with us, like for students or like, who have a lot of time to study but don't actually get to, get around to studying and then keep, procrastinating or something.
Okay. I think first of all, like think openly about whatever you want to, for example, study. Think about this openly. Do not just go with the advices of anyone. For example, my friends also used to study this like SAT thing. However, they were the only thing that they were doing is to, for example, learn some kind of topic and then they were putting in the practice. That was the thing. However, what I did first of all, for the first 2 weeks, I researched a lot. Like, I am really skeptic, like, I'm really skeptical when it comes to learning something, and I make lots of research. I, for example, like, first of all, chose what book to read, like, what book to study. Study from. That was the main thing that I have first, like, urged myself for the first 2 weeks, and then I was really clear about the topics that I wanted to learn. I said, okay, Marifa, so you want to, for example, improve your comprehension? Okay, you are going to study intensively, like you are going to read intensively. And I like, after Fajr, for example, I always like took 1 hour at least to read two passages, two academic or like two scientific or like two psychological or whatever I wanted to, right? It can be even like a poem, or it can be even like a novel. But the thing, it has to be academic, like it has to be like hard to understand something. Like you have to challenge yourself. That was the thing. Like I took them and then I analyzed for an hour. Like I really like detail. I analyzed it in detail. That was the thing that I did in terms of comprehension skills. And plus, I like learned whatever vocab I had. Like even if I see the word or even if I like hear a word, I would just refer to my dictionary and then like search for its meaning. That was like the process of the learning, the process of learning that I had. So yeah, this was the tips that was like in terms of writing, in terms of reading. However, when it comes to the writing in specifically, I first of all got myself introduced with the topics that I had to learn. First of all, I went with the English grammar, first of all, like standard American English grammar, and then I turned to the strategies, and these were the exact plans, that I had like put to myself. And then in terms of reading, my first step was comprehension and then like strategies again. Like I researched a lot of websites. I never ever depended like on one specific book, I can say. Like lots of people ask me to recommend some books in terms of SIT. However, I cannot really like recommend one specific book because I was extremely like curious about like which strategy to use or like which what who to follow, like from social media. And that's why like I researched a lot and I found lots of things. I know like my speaking, my like explanation was a bit messy, but I think you got the point, right? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries. I was actually going to ask a question on like what kind of resources do you recommend to study on your own? Now I got the answer actually. So yeah, that did the trick. Okay, now fast forward to 15, 40. Like,
Okay.
after how long did it take you to go from 1420, was it right, 1420, right,
Yeah,
to
1420.
15 40?
Okay, you know, like I never prepared that intensively after taking that 1420 because after taking that 1420, I was not even like planning to retake this exam. However, like I like continued with preparing students individually, like only like I had like several students, and this was like 2 years ago, probably. Yeah, this was 2 years ago. So yeah, I prepared them all individually, and after this, like I went to the programming, you know, like I learned the programming, and then from this third year, I tried this again, and I retook this, and my third trial I got 1540, and I cannot say like the period that took me to take, for example, that score. I cannot really be specific about the period. However, it
Okay,
was
you were
like
like,
through teaching or something. So yeah, that's the
uh,
thing.
okay, from what I've heard, like, I guess what you did was just to, enjoy the ride, right? Like, you were not necessarily like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
focused on studying, right?
Yeah,
But
that
since you
was
were
the thing.
surrounded by SAT, right?
Yeah, I was preparing with my students. I was not really preparing with my students because I didn't take any full mock tests after this. You know, like I really hate the full mock test because it takes like 4 hours almost, and I like feel
Hmm.
absolutely dumb during this period. So yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way about practice tests. Towards the end of practice tests, I always like feel like, my head is gonna explode or something, especially with reading. Yeah, it can be daunting. Now, about like while we're on the subject of mock tests, do you think it's necessary or useful if we take mock tests, or how often should we take mock tests as a SAT student?
Uh-huh. For example, what I do with my students, first of all, we spend 1 month for just like getting ourselves introduced, for learning like all the fundamentals, like what the SAT is, like what is really like, what does SAT really like ask you, right? All these kind of stuff. And after like the first months, I start to take mock tests. However, like for the first like let's say for the first 2 months, I only take like mock tests once in a month. However, like after like maybe like 3 months, I take them regularly, like once in 2 weeks or something. Yeah, that's the thing. I do not think like you like have to take full mock tests like every week or like every 3 days or like every 2 days. No, that's not the thing. I think the analysis is what matters. You know, like the analysis and understanding like everything, like how you got it wrong, for example, like how you got the incorrect answers. I think this is all that matters.
Okay. I guess we can kind of, this kind of resembles the IELTS mock test, right? Like if you just keep practicing, your score is not going to get any higher. But if you actually analyze your mistakes, and only then you will make any great progress, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, now you earlier mentioned about self-discipline, like how you were able to study, like and on your own, right? And about that, regarding that, I am just curious, like if let's just take a imaginary person, like somebody whose score is 7 or 8 on IELTS, and they've been really like crazy about IELTS, like, for long enough, and but they don't like have the discipline to to just start SAT courses on their own. Like, what is your recommendation? Like, does that like thing you did on your own apply to everybody, or should they go to courses? And how do we know like which courses to go? Like, based on what factors do we decide that?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I see. That's a tough question. That's really a tricky one. So yeah, fine. I think like the method, the strategy that I took does not work for everyone because like as long as they are like not that self-disciplined. I think first of all, for even like understanding what the SAT is, or like what this really ask you, I think you have to go, you have to prepare with the tutor, I think, or with someone at least, with someone who has a better experience in the SAT. I think that's like my point. Um, so yeah, when it comes to choosing the tutor, I think like it's not only about like their own scores. For example, you cannot go and practice with me based on my score. Just for example, I think like do not even like look at the student score. Yes, this is also something like you base your choice on. However, like just go to the lesson and like see and experience this. I think like trial classes are always like the free ones, right? Just go and experience that. Just see like how this tutor approach like can I get something from that tutor? Can I get something specific from that tutor? Like something specific that I cannot take, like that I cannot get on my own. You can just like go and experience and ask these questions from yourself. That's the point, I think.
Okay, well, just gonna tell you the truth. That imaginary person was me, and
Oh, really? Nice.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess like I will also like start preparing for SAT, and based on your like recommendation that you just shared with us. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
All right. I think okay. Now let's move on, and I had a question earlier that popped into my head. Okay, yeah, I got it. You see, in IELTS, right, we have this weird tendency, right, to score, a 9, right? Like we have this ego, right, to score a 9, right?
Yeah.
But in SAT, it's obviously really difficult to, score 1600. It's, practically impossible. Like given like no like given the statistics, right? Like nobody in Uzbekistan, I believe, got a perfect score. Maybe I'm wrong, but about like that, like perfect score. Well, let's just say, for example, I myself am not quite content with my band 8 at the moment, and I
Really?
actually like retook the test, but again I got an 8, which is disappointing. But I still keep trying to get a band 9. But how about in SAT? Do you think it's worthwhile to keep pushing yourself, or do colleges or like do colleges care about like perfect score or something? Like what is the difference between 1500 and 1600? Like to like make it short.
Uh-huh. I think like for getting into even like top universities in the world, like MIT or Harvard, it's like sufficient to get like 1450 or like 14 maybe like 90 plus or something, right? It's just possible. Like you should not be worrying too much about getting that highest score, like highest perfect score. I don't think that it's worthwhile even, unless you want to teach or you want to tutor like me. Yes, it is possible because like my students might get the score higher than me. And that means like that's gonna be a bit disappointing, a bit. Like that might be a bit disappointing. But like if you are only applying to the university, like no matter like if it's like top 10 or like top 100, top 20, 200, it doesn't really mean anything. Okay, how universities use your SAT or IELTS score? That's the question. That might be the question. I think it's not only about like if you're applying to top universities, yes, they do use it only to like filter the students out. This is the thing. However, if you're applying for like normal universities, like top 100 or like top 200, they use it for like granting some scholarships. For example, we have merit-based scholarships. Like I'm not, I don't mean their financial aid. This is like whole another thing. I mean really like scholarship. Okay, scholarship is something like you win, like if you have an exceptional academic performance or if you have an exceptional achievement, right? This is the thing that this university like grants you as a compensation for all of your achievements. However, if we really talk about the financial aid or something, this is the thing that that the university offers you if your, for example, income level, or like if the university tuition fee is somehow like a problem for you. So yeah, okay, what I wanted to say is like if you are applying to like the universities, like normal universities, I mean like top 100, top 200, or all these things, they can take your scores and like they can see other sections of your application, and they can grant you some scholarships like merit based, you know. It might be even like up to 100%. However, when it comes to like the top 10 or top 20 universities, I think like you should not be caring too much about getting that perfect score. It's okay to get, for example, 1480 plus, 1480 or 1490, you know, like, or like even like 15, 1500. So yeah, that's the thing. I think like you should not be caring too much about getting that perfect score, because I think it's better to focus on other sections of your part application. Like I noticed like lots of students do not even think about the portfolio section. In portfolio is not only about the list of your achievements or list of the organizations that you worked for. It's not only about this. It's the projects that you did on your own. For example, let's say I want to apply for the computer science, right? Let's say this. And if there are some projects that I did on my own or like in a team, it doesn't really matter. You can just submit that. And lots of students just skip this part. Like it costs you a bit, I'll be honest. But anyways, like lots of students just forget about this and they put too much stress on IELTS, on SAT, on like all of these kinds of stuff, you know. I think that's really important to focus on other sections of of your application, on your essays, on your like extracurriculars, on your honors in the words, and on your like portfolio. That's the thing.
Okay, I got it. Um, all right. So, what do you think about taking a gap year? Like, because people are a little, wary of taking gap years, especially in Uzbekistan, because you see, there is this culture we have that, implies that if you don't get into university the first year, that means you're a failure. So, like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, actually, I was also considered this way, and I'm still being considered this way. Like, okay, Marifat, because you could not get into any of these universities, and all of the universities that you're showing on social media are fake. They call it just this way. Okay, and I let them whatever they want to call. So yeah, that's the thing. Okay, look, what does really matter is not like the gap year you take, but like what matters the most is how you spend that gap year. I think this is really important thing. Um, like if you are only spending your time on the on improving your test scores, like or only on IELTS or only on SAT, or you are doing something better, like you are also like improving your career, or you are doing something, you know, like some kind of projects, or you are pursuing your interests. That's I think that's what really matters. So yeah, like I think yes, you have to worry, but you should not be that's not a worry, you know. Why? Because as long as you're spending your gap year in a correct way, like you are focusing on, for example, your work, your future, your career, that's perfectly okay.
Okay, my takeaway from what you said is that colleges don't accept robots, right? You have to be you have to stand out from the mob to make them choose you, right? Not just by taking the highest score on SAT, getting the highest score on SAT or IELTS, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Okay, okay. Now, one last question concerning IELTS and SAT, and we're going to move on to some, little trivial questions. Okay, somebody asked in the comment section, like, is IELTS like, can IELTS be enough to study, in a university, like abroad, right, in a foreign university, or like, is it even possible to, land into any university with an IELTS certificate? I guess like like anyone like, who asked this question maybe has like 7 or maybe somewhere around that. Like can you just briefly talk about that as well?
Okay. I think like some European schools do not even like require SAT, but you can submit your SAT. Okay, I'll not be talking about SAT. I mainly talk about the IELTS. Since I never applied to universities that only asks you your IELTS or like English proficiency test scores, I have a very little insight on that. But I have heard like lots of students are getting scholarships even without SAT to like some European schools, and that's true. That may be true. However, I'm not sure about like the 100% scholarships, like full ride scholarships. I'm not really sure about that.
Okay. All right. I guess that wraps up our section for Q&A on SAT and IELTS. Well, we have some more, personal, not necessarily personal, but sort of like,
Okay.
concerning your way of speaking and something like that, and programming as well. Okay, so can you, like somebody asked in the comments, like, did she take any oratorical course to speak in Uzbek in an amazing way? Before you answer the question, I have one thing to say. Yes, I'm also quite taken aback by how you're able to speak right in front of a big audience, right, without any like hesitations or something like yeah, I
Wow.
guess.
So yeah, that's a real compliment that I have like ever got, you know. That's a perfect compliment. Thank you a lot. I appreciate like everyone who is interested in giving such questions. So yeah. Um probably, like um I think this is I have never taken like these kinds of courses. Like I'll be honest, for 100%. But I think like I failed a lot in terms of public speaking. I had lots of embarrassing moments when it comes to speaking in front of the public, and I think it's the psychology. I think like it's the psychological practices that I worked intensively with, and I had some trainings, and they were only like some YouTube tips, but I trained intensively, you know. So yeah, that's the thing. And the second thing you can do also, like you can try, is to recite the verses, like رب اشرح لي. I like recite this a lot whenever I'm going to like go to some public speaking or even like before this voice chat. I think it really helps. That's the thing. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, interesting. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you about programming, and can you like pull the curtain, like pull back the curtains on like when you started programming and how you actually got into this field of IT.
So yeah. Okay. Um. First of all, like I will promise, like like I'll be super honest. Like I had no interest. I had zero interest in programming. I even like can remember the times when I like ran away from informatics classes. So yeah, that was the thing. However, like the person that's made me interested in this field was my brother, and he said like, oh, there is something cool, like you can just learn something from this. And I remember the times when I was like writing HTML codes and these like simple stuff on my own. Okay, when did these all start? So yeah, let me say. First of all, like it was probably like 2.5 years ago. Like I'm still like new to that field. I'm not like the senior web developer or something. I would say like I am somewhere like middle. I can say something like this, but I think probably I am strong junior still. Like I can create like whatever I want. However, it takes time. Like I do lots of research, and that's my asset. I think. Like when it comes to the programming or learning anything, you have to know the language of the Google. Like you can just Google whatever you want. However, you know how to use this, how to use that like perfect search engine. I think that was the very big asset that I had. Plus, I used the courses for free, like intensively. Like there were probably like 100 courses that I took. Not 100 really, like maybe like more than 50 courses that I took. And note that I didn't finish them all. For I took like one or two classes and then I like skip or like turn into other ones. And I think you can learn a lot from the YouTube. Like whatever you want to get, for example, you want to, for example, let's say you want to learn computer networks, right? Just go to the YouTube and say computer networks, like computer networking full tutorial. You are going to find bunch of tutorials. And I think there are some reliable, very reliable resources as well. But in terms of programming, if it is somehow unreliable, lots of people comment on that. So yeah, you can just know what is reliable and what is not reliable. So yeah, that's the thing. First of all, like know that I am not that like proficient in this field. Like I'm still like new to that field. And I did lots of research. I did lots of online learning. Um, plus, what was your last question? I could not remember this. Sorry.
Well, I cannot remember it either.
So
um, I guess we can skip that. Maybe it wasn't that important
yeah.
because I'm just trying to think of different questions as we go along.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's really great. You see, um, what most people lack, I guess, like, is like and like reason, right? Like a good enough reason to get started. Because from what I can see, you had your reasons to take on those challenges, and what I'm kind of fascinated by is how you stuck to what you had to do, right? Like what you want, and how you're still doing that. That's like we gotta hand it to you. And about that, like about Google and everything, right? I guess people, around, like not just in Uzbekistan, but people in general, right, have this, tendency to, take things for granted, and especially take free stuff for granted, because, we don't even, think about like first asking Google before we
Yeah.
ask a particular person, or like trying to find some kind of mentor, right? I guess like we need to be like independent learners, because most, like accomplished, like learners like you, right? I like what one thing that I see in common is that, like, they are independent learners, right? They don't actually rely on anybody else to go, like like what, like make their way up to their desired goals. Yeah, that's what makes me kind of
So yeah,
move.
that was the reason. That was the another reason that I like didn't study at the universities that I got in. You know, like I learned a lot of things independently, like through pure self-studying. Like that's why I think like in order to learn something like really specific, in order to learn the thing that I want to do with my life, with my entire life, I needed like a special thing. I needed like a professional atmosphere. That was another reason. So yeah, you may continue with your questions.
Okay. All right. Now, there is one last question from me. Like, I have this question, like, how did you manage your time as a student, like, or even now, like, because you seem to have a lot going on in your life. You seem to have a lot on your plate, because even like when we tried to do like voice chat yesterday, because we had like one business like meeting, coming up, and we had to reschedule. So it's got to be tough, right, with all that's going on. So can you like tell us about your schedule, or how you manage your time?
So yeah, I see. Okay, first of all, I like keep plans because like I started having this habit of forgetting things. I'm not sure like if I am like getting old or something. So yeah, that's the thing. Like I right now, like I am keeping some journals, like taking some notes about like what I'm going to do and putting some reminders on my phone. That's the thing pretty much. Plus, if you are asking me about like how you manage your time and stay in the balance, for example, if you're asking me this, I would say like take up something you enjoy. Do not always think of like work, work, work. Because right now I'm only like thinking of my work, work, work. Because my day starts from 6 till 9. That's the thing. And after 9, I have to do my some programming stuff. That's the thing, like for another like 2 hours. And that's the thing. And I think for you to keep like keep your like the same attitude, right? Towards your work and towards your like life in general, I think it's really important to take up something, to like do something you enjoy. For example, in my case, this is like in my case, this is for example like of course, I'm not going to tell about like the religion thing, but in my case, this is, for example, playing on the violin. I enjoy like playing on the violin, and I'm taking some courses. And my violin journey all started with the online courses. Like I was learning this from online classes. Even. So yeah, I think for managing your time, these two things are really important.
Okay, great. Like, very handful tips. Now, we're gonna move on, and it's like somebody asks questions like in the comments that can be answered briefly. And one of them is, how long did you study math? Like overall, I guess they meant.
Uh-huh. Um, I think studying math. Actually, I took the math courses before I was even like preparing for the IELTS. So yeah, it took me like for 6 months probably because like at school I felt like I was proficient in math. However, then I realized, like, after solving some stuff, I realized that, yeah, you have some, like, problems with math. Like, just be honest with yourself. Just try to face that difficulty. Like, face that problem. You have the problem, and then you get to solve it. That's the thing that I, like, do to myself. And then I trained with this. It was like 3 times a week, not that intensively, for 6 months. So, yeah,
Okay,
until the
again,
high level
intensity,
math,
right?
until the high level math. But it was not the
Hmm.
intensive process. Yeah, it was not the intensive process.
Okay, about like intensity and consistency, what line do you
I
draw
think
between them?
the
How important it is to, have intensity going on in your work and in your studies and consistency. Like, can you tell us the difference between these two and how to sort of like, let them coexist?
yeah, um I think they never coexist because, like, I think intensity is good for like short-term things. For example, if you are right now preparing for the SAT, just do this intensively, right? Like, work on its intensity, and it should only last not more than like 5 or 6 months. It should not last for this long, like for a year or something. I think like consistency to exist you you have to do this like not that intensively and you have to like like take somehow it for granted and there are the things that you have to for example take intensively and there are some things that you have to do for example consistently for example let's say in terms of like these tests right you have to work yes you have to work intensively however like I think I cannot work with the SAT consistently nope never for example yes I tutor from the SAT I'm like always with this however I do not work on my own like I do not brush up my skills in terms of SAT like after the classes but I think when it comes to something you enjoy and something like you really like, like love doing, I think these things really require consistency for you to become like the master of this. For example, problem. I enjoy working like in front of the laptop. I enjoy, for example, problem solving or something. Like for being creative. Um, and the same goes for violin. I think. Like I enjoy its voice, even I'm not like the master of this, but like I really enjoy the process.
Okay, yeah, got the answer. Now, we have like one last question, I guess. Like about master's degree, like Tildora asked, do I need an SAT to get a master's degree in Westminster in the field of accounting?
I mean, like, you mean like Westminster University here in Tashkent, or what?
Yeah, that's also what I'm wondering about. Maybe she meant, um, maybe here, or like maybe like even okay, she's writing herself. But my question for you is like, is it even possible to apply for any
So yeah.
university? Like is it possible to do master's degree using SAT?
I think if you're applying, if like as far as the Uzbekistan universities are concerned, I think it's not worthwhile. It's not worthwhile. I'm not saying like you don't need SAT, but it's not worthwhile to study to prepare for the SAT. I think because like SAT is harder process than you expect. However, if you want to just study the master's degree or something, you can just take their entrance exams and that's all. Like you can just take your IELTS score and then you can just apply with their entrance exams. I think that makes things a lot easier. However, like you don't have to putting on yourself lots of stress with preparing for the SAT. That's the thing. It's not worthwhile.
Okay. Yeah, she just wrote that, yes, it's in Tashkent. I guess like what you just said pretty much applies to this as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like even speaking of SAT in Uzbekistan, like do Uzbek universities like receive SAT scores?
I think yes, they do, but only the math parts. They do not really care about the English parts. But I think like if the only math part is considered, I think it's like вообще not worthwhile. I think like it made me
Okay.
speak, Russian. So yeah, that's the thing. Like it's not really necessary. Like even if you have like 600, 700 in math, you can just apply it to them. But one thing to really like take note of is that they never like in no way grant scholarships based on your SAT. Like no matter if you have 1600 from the SAT, and that
Okay, I
makes it
guess.
doubly not worthwhile.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like if a person had a 1600, they would probably not even think about applying for,
Yeah, yeah,
Uzbek universities.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Uh,
And I guess there's nothing left but to roll out the red carpet for you. And now, can you tell our audience like what's going on with your life in terms of your career and like what courses do you have or something like or your general suggestions to everybody who's listening to us right now?
okay. So yeah, like if you want to want to study abroad or want to, for example, to study in top universities or like whatever in general, okay, but this does not really apply to the Uzbek universities, okay, this does not really apply to our Uzbek universities. Okay, if you want to study abroad, just first of all like care about your test scores for like for only like a limited period, okay, period of time. Okay, you need to get that 14 plus, 1400 plus on the SAT or like 7 plus on the IELTS. But these are not the only things, okay? If you, for example, already got 7, or if you, for example, already got 7.5 or something, do not try to, for example, perfect that scores. Actually, this was my mistake. This was my mistake. So yeah, I didn't really focus on my essay parts. Didn't really focus. It took me to write all of the college essays for just like 2 weeks or like 3 weeks. However, you should be spending more than this. You should be spending your like at least like 3 months in writing your essays. That's why, guys, first of all, yeah, take these test scores, like take all of these test scores, like get things done with these, okay? And then the second thing, like the things that come that next, okay? So yeah, you have to focus on other parts of the application. They are like equally important as the SAT or your IELTS. They are all equally important. Try to focus more on, like, for example, um pursuing your own career, pursuing your interests. Like take violin courses if you're interested, fine. Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, do whatever you want, like enjoy the process. Like do not really like go only for the tests, or like learn something new, you know try to do some projects. Try to, for example, get involved in some organizations or some like community services. So yeah, that's the thing. These are my suggestions. And if you ask me about my life, so yeah, right now we do offer SAT courses, and they are online and offline. We offer both. So yeah. Plus, one really like great news is that we do offer, for example, we do offer after taking the test, we do offer 2 weeks like intensive workshops about the college application as well. This is going to be like additional stuff. However, this does not cost you like additionally, you know. This will be in the course fee. This will be covered in the course fee. So yeah, this is something that like interests most people. Okay, so yeah, and I will also teach like I will also like you know, like instruct lots of students in terms of their college application, plus like letters and like personal statements. So yeah, that's the thing that I'm doing right now. And these were all of the advice that I could give. So yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
Thank you a lot for you as well for like
Yeah.
inviting me, for having on me there. So yeah, thank you a lot for
Yeah.
having me. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. It was good having you.
Mm,
Okay. But bye uh-huh. Have a good night.
uh-huh. Thank you. Like,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Bye.